Hey everyone, and welcome to another Yogi Misfit Session. My name is Danny Pomploon, and I'm your host. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at SF Yoga Mag. Check them out at sfyogamag.com. You can actually check out my asana columns over there. They do some really good stuff for not just the San Francisco yoga community, but for the yoga community in general. Let's get to the show. Today we have my dear friend and my yoga sister, Nikki Krause, on the show. She is she's a yoga teacher based in San Diego. She's a really good friend. She is a powerhouse of energy and light, and I mean, the girl just knows her stuff. She's got a really interesting story. So without further ado, Nikki, welcome to the show.
Oh, Danny, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to speak with you on your very own show. So what an honor.
I know. I have a podcast. It's kind of crazy.
Yes, I love it.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing actually really good. I'm going to be getting back into teaching tomorrow. We'll get into it, but I had a little time off, and today was the first day of getting back into my hours that I thrive, and that means getting up really, really early in the morning. So this is kind of my first day back to it. I'm not going to lie, the last 4 months I've really lavished in sleeping in and going with my natural circadian rhythm, and this is the first morning back to that 4:30 a.m. wake up call. So I'm adapting. I'm feeling it. It's definitely different now than yesterday at 12:30. So
Right.
yeah, but in all is said and done, it's a good day. I just got out of a really nice deep stretch class, which is similar to a restorative practice, but it's longer holds, not as long as yin, but it was a really amazing class. So yeah, I'm feeling good.
Whose class was it?
My kind of healing sanctuary, since I've been on my time away from my normal classes, was actually here in Carmel Valley at Yoga 6, and her name is Abby, and she is an absolute gem. Again, another really strong, physically strong teacher, but teaches deep stretch in such a mindful way. So we did a lot of long, slow, deep stretching. Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah. For those of you listening in on the show, I've known Nikki for
way back, throwback.
Yeah. How long has it been?
I want to say, Danny, I remember, remember when you had was it your 21st birthday party I think it was at the top of the W? Was that your 21st?
No, that was, I know the charity event that we had, right?
Yes.
That was my 25th. No, that was my 24th. That was my golden birthday. Yeah, it was the 24th on the 24th. You're right.
On the 24th. Okay, because it was a big one. I remember it was a big one. And I knew you probably about 7 months from that. You met about 7 or 8 months before that.
So I would say I've known you for like 7 years now, pretty close to 7 years now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And when I first, how did we meet? I met you at the yoga studio. I think I took like your yoga class or something, right?
Oh, brother, I remember the first day I met you. It was actually, you were cleaning. You were a cleaner in San Diego at one of the yoga
that's
studios.
Right. That's right.
Yep, at Core Power in Pacific Beach, and I was the cleaning manager.
That's right.
So I came down to I think it was training or something, and I think we talked for about an hour and a half the whole time, and I don't even think we got through training because I just was enamored with your story and obviously your beautiful tattoos, and it went from there, and it was a really nice conversation. But I believe that was the first time we actually met.
That's right. You're correct. Because you were. I remember when you were the cleaner there, and then you're like, well, I'm actually going to start. It ended up becoming that you were going to start being a teacher, and you're like, well, you should actually become the head cleaner.
Yeah.
And then from there, you were like, well, then you should probably start teaching soon too. And it all kind of just fumbled from one thing. And I had an injury. I had a shoulder and wrist thing going on.
Yes.
And you were doing massage work at the time, and you're the one that healed me up. You're the only. Yeah. Out of I went to doctors, I went to chiropractors, I went to a ton of different things, and I would call you specifically and be like, Nikki, it's the only time the pain goes away is when you work on me.
Yes, I think for all of your yoga listeners out there, for those that practice physical asana, it is one of the best relievers. So it's in the very center of your shoulder blade. It's actually an acupuncture point. But if you're to look at your shoulder blade like the continent of Africa and locate the very center of it, there's an acupressure point. When you push down on that and go 10 strokes towards the heart and do that about 3 times a day. You can do it to a homie. You can do it on yourself with a Theracane. It is such a reliever because it gets to a lot of the rotator cuff muscles all at once.
Great.
And it just takes that encapsulation of tension of the shoulder and completely alleviates it. It's very simple. And yes, I'm so glad that helped, Danny.
Yeah, that was good. That was good stuff, man. We go back. I love it. I love it. I love that I get to chat with you. So I'm gonna fill. Let's do one of two things. We'll switch up the show a little bit today. I'm gonna
Okay.
fill the listeners in. So Nikki is my deemed yoga sister. We basically bonded and kind of fell in love, and we were just homies after that. That's the best way to put it. And we would chat about music and life. And
Yes.
I borrowed her truck when I was moving a couple times. And
Yes. And you gave me your DJ equipment. I was getting back into DJing, and I think it was Thursday when I called you, and I had a gig Saturday morning, and I'm like, "Hey, Danny, I have nothing. Can you help me?" And I at that time had learned tractor, and you were on Serato, or was it vice versa?
I was Serato, yeah. I was using Serato.
You were on Serato, and I was on tractor, so I was so familiar with that program. And you're like, "Yes, of course, come over to my house, no problem." Which your house was immaculate. It was so clean. Your DJ equipment was so nice, and you just trusted me with it.
Yeah,
I had
that's right.
to learn Serato, like crammed it like a study session in college or something overnight. And you were so kind to me. Like, you were like, "Call me if you have any problems." I remember I was setting everything up that Saturday morning, and you were like on the phone with me. But yeah, that was a memory that sticks out of my head, just how cool you were with me, setting everything up, and you were there for me.
Yeah, and even throughout the times, like too, like I feel like we would check in with each other and like send each other a text here and there and just say what's up. It's just a really good kindred spirits, which I love.
For sure.
So I'm gonna give some background, and then I wanna ask why yoga in a second, and then get into today's topic. But Nikki, for those of you listening, had a little bit of a cancer scare, and she took some time off, and she's back and kicking. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And I guess to transition into this, I want to ask for you, Nikki, like, why yoga?
Oh my goodness, why not? I know it's such a simple answer, but every time that I've practiced yoga, or that day has been a really good day. And it's very simple. It's just getting back to connection with self. So however you define yoga, if it's physical asana, if it's meditation practice, it's just yoking your experience with self. So when you ask why yoga, I say, why not? There's so many techniques out there to really get you into a yogic state, that when you ask why, I say, why not?
Yeah. And you started teaching when you were a cleaner, and then did you do your teacher training at that same time, or had you done it beforehand, or?
Well, this is another funny story. I actually was teaching before I was trained. So a little secret I'm revealing. What happened was, I was a holistic health practitioner, and I moved to San Diego to work at a wellness center. At that time, I had been practicing Ashtanga for such a long time under Ite Dollinger down in Orange County in Laguna Beach, that I felt my practice was really strong. And when I went to the wellness center, I said, yes, I absolutely can teach a yoga class here. And I did an audition. I cannot believe that I passed that audition. And then, I started teaching. And no joke, Danny, those first few classes, I was teaching out of a book. Like, I had my one of my yoga teachers, I had his Ashtanga book down there, and I was flipping through the pages, teaching asana just like that. And then once I felt comfortable, I actually transitioned into power yoga after moving to San Diego, and really fell in love with practicing at Core Power. I never thought I would. It was a format that I was not used to, but it was very accessible, and I started to notice that I actually practiced every single day, and it was such a part of the flow. It's a shorter time, and at that time I was a little bit more busy, so I was able to get it in. And I when I went for an actual teacher training, because I wanted to start to kind of work towards being a teacher versus just a teacher from a place of a student, when I wanted the tools of being a teacher,
Right.
it was just kind of a natural progression to go through Core Powers teacher training. That was my basic 200-hour training that I did down in San Diego.
I have no like doubt in my mind that even your first couple classes, just because I mean I know you and I know how intuitive you are with bodies, and I just see that the way you move in your practice, that I have no doubt. I mean, it was probably a killer first couple classes without an official 200-hour training. You're a great. I mean, you're a great student and you're a great teacher.
Well, my friend, do you remember you actually took my class? You actually took it. It was in La Jolla, and it was at this studio called Eight Elements West, and it was
Yeah, that was a
upstairs.
massage place.
Yes, you took my yoga class there. It was like a very basic Ashtanga. I don't think it was the full primary series, but there
Right.
was a good chunk of the primary series in that class.
Yeah, but you were already a teacher by then.
Okay, so then probably by then I probably was still teaching the power sequence
I got
at
the
that
OG. I
studio.
got the OG Nikki.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's awesome, man. That's so. I get. It's so funny. Like after all these years, I've never known that story. Like I just
yeah,
kind of just like knew you as the homie that was like a teacher and
yes.
kind of did more with it. But that's awesome.
Hey,
The secrets come out.
yeah, when you have passion for something, I felt that I was respecting it because I had been a student for so long, and I never claimed anything at teaching it that I didn't know. Like I felt strong with that holistic health practitioner base.
Right.
But yeah, that's the truth underneath it all.
I love it, man. I love it, and
Yeah,
I love your why yoga answer. Why
yeah,
not? It's so simple, and that's actually come up on the show a few times now. It's
yeah,
as the answer is as why not. It's a good it's a great like response to it.
yeah.
So I wanna transition into to so for when I was asking you to be on the show, I was thinking about everything that you were going through, and you tell the story obviously way better than I do. But you had your cancer scare, and one, it scared me shitless, and I immediately reached out and was like, whatever you need, I'm here for you. Be
Mhm.
it financially help or support, or I think I said I would fly down if you needed me,
Yeah,
and I know because of all that, it really kind of the topic just came up like boom, yoga and healing, and I was
yeah.
like, what better person to not only just speak to this, but speak to this from a place of like right away, like that it's so real and so raw and so open because it just actually happened. So let's talk about yoga and healing, and let's talk a little bit about your story and your recent past and how yoga has helped you heal with everything.
Sure, Danny. And I think that this is going to be starting from dessert and going down to appetizers because I was a little bit of a reverse experience. I had a real formative practice for 16 years. I had the tools of meditation.
Hmm.
I had a raw vegan diet. I had a holistic lifestyle. The weekend before I was diagnosed, I actually ran the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon and felt, there was a few things and symptoms that I had been experiencing, but nothing blatant, nothing glaring. So starting from a place of health, starting from a very grounded sense of self and experience, this completely rocked my world because it was the last thing that I ever expected to happen. And I think that's what I'm kind of gathering, that is actually the message, which has nothing to do with the physical, which has nothing to do with control. It's actually the opposite.
Hmm.
And my experience started, or this particular experience started 4 months ago. I had, to keep it really short, I had been taken to the emergency room by a friend, an actual another teacher, a manager at one of my studios that I teach at, and we went into the emergency room at my unknowing. Like I did not want to stop teaching, and she actually subbed her class out. And so, unwilling, I went. I didn't think that anything was wrong, except there are a few things that had happened that morning where obviously something was going on. Anyway, fast forward, I went into emergency surgery that Friday evening, and a 10-centimeter mass in diameter was removed from my right ovary.
Oh, wow.
So for the viewers that are, for the listeners that want to get kind of a visual of that, that was about the size of a grapefruit that was actually in the cavity of my abdomen. And I did not know that. And that morning I had been actually demonstrating twisting and had maybe a pain level of 2 at the most.
Hmm.
So fast forward about 2 weeks after that surgery, I heard back from pathology, and I had stage 1C non-epithelial immature germ cell ovarian cancer. So for those, as I was very unfamiliar with the different elements of cancer, non-epithelial translates to it's not the kind that you can change or shift your diet to prevent, or, if you're a smoker, stop smoking, get your body alkaline. It's got nothing to do with that, nothing to do with DNA, completely random.
Wow.
So here I was given this diagnosis. I had not been actually staged for it yet because it was taken out thinking that it was a cyst. Everybody was completely we didn't know what to do at that stage. The doctor, my first oncologist that I went to go see, he was actually a specialist in San Diego at UCSD, and he did not even know the steps to take. It's such a rare form that since 1970, only 150 women have had this type of cancer. So
Wow.
I was in dark, complete dark, Danny, and what that meant for me was bringing it back to yoga. This was the biggest art of letting go that I have ever had to experience. I remember when people ask you, was it painful, were you scared? Not really at all. Um, More along in the story as I go along, it was my community. It was a few events that I knew that I would be, okay. And I felt so much love that was the biggest healing power that I think I ever could have experienced. But what I did grapple with was not being able to control something for, I would say, probably really the first time in life, or not understanding it, not being able to get an answer after asking God over and over again, why, not from a place of being a victim, but not being able to wrap my head around it. So where does yoga come in when that experience happens? And all I could do was stay present as the moments unfolded. And that's really where, yoga came in, due to the surgery I had, and due to the surgery that I had about 5 weeks later to get the staging. I physically had to stop. I had to stop physical asana. The first time I had stopped in 16 years. And, I got to my meditation cushion. I did a lot more introspection, and that's where yoga played its part in the whole healing journey.
And how, like, and even in the recovery process, because I mean, that was 4 months ago, and
Yeah,
tomorrow is like your big debut, actually. Tomorrow you get
yeah,
back to the grinds. Like,
yeah,
how did yoga, without, because people always think, I mean, and it's such a different, what we've done to yoga in the Western society has been a lot of physical based, which I'm not saying is a
sure,
bad thing at all, but
sure.
how did the other aspects of yoga help you with healing? So you talked a little bit about the meditation, but like, and
Hmm.
talk more about, like, I want to hear more about your experience of like the letting go, and the and I don't, maybe I'm alluding to it, but like, the whole impermanence thing, and knowing that this is going to be completely different tomorrow, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just that, I had defined for myself who I was, as a healthy young woman. What happens when that gets played with a little, and I wouldn't say, yeah, I mean, there were elements where that was essentially ego wrapped around a certain identity that I had carried, thinking that that was my shield of armor, that was in some training that I've done, what we called a strong suit. That's what I was in my life, was a healthy individual. What happens when that rug gets pulled out underneath you, or where you're tested a little bit? Where do you go? And it was just absolutely that. It was letting go, knowing that we are so much more than our physical body. So when I wasn't able to identify with it, where did I go to? I love to get physical elements through asana practice, and to stir that life force up. I went through pranayama practices, and I got back into that. So that's one of the 8 limbs that was practiced. Dharana, dhyana, concentration, focus on what exactly was happening when I was sitting in the doctor's office, and he was speaking vernacular that I was not familiar with, these words, these big words. What do they mean? I was able to breathe into it, focus on what he's saying, knowing that it's very important information that he's telling me right now. It's a foreign language, but I need to focus on what he's saying, because it's information that will at least help me navigate with what's going on. And then, yeah, to go back to where we started, it was about letting go, and that when all of this passes, that I'm my physical body, it's not permanent. I'm right now not that woman I was 4 months ago. Running 26 miles, is not coming as easily as it was, because that was not a permanent thing. Shifting has to happen, and letting go of defining myself with how far I can go in a back bend. I couldn't even do a back bend for 3, 4, 5 weeks after this second surgery, to
Right.
actually expand and open through my sternum. Like, that energy was there, and I could not do a back bend. So I didn't get scar tissue. I was building up, scar tissue to heal the surgery, the second round of surgery. So couldn't get into a back bend. Well, that had been a definitive action that I had taken as a way of meaning of an open up in my heart. So I had to open up through action, through service, through, that's a huge element of the yoga practice, is serving. And when other individuals had come to me, even after I had gotten diagnosed, a short span, 2 months ago, I've already had 3 friends reach out that are going through a similar experience already, and being able to be of service to them, of something I couldn't have been a few months ago. That was also definitely an element of using that element of service.
That's a huge part. I think people forget that yoga isn't just about the actual. Well, there's multiple layers of the practice, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not just always the physical thing, but it is being of service to people, and I love that you were able to hold that space. I think you reached out to me and were like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about your cancer thing." It was kind of like cryptic, and then you were like, "Well, this is what's going on," and then I was like, "Oh, okay, all right."
Yeah, it's like you get into this tribe that I never expected to be a part of. And holy, there's so many individuals on this planet that are going through it in our time. And some say that this is a blanket word over many different diseases, but it is linking us together. So when I got diagnosed, I went straight for the people in my life that I know have gone through a similar experience, because there's a kindred uh, relationship there that other people cannot necessarily relate to. And my story is not your story is not my story, but there's some kind of connection where only you could understand. That my other friends, why they cared for me or supported me, they had no idea what it actually felt like to hear those words: "You've been diagnosed with cancer."
Right, right.
I mean,
No, yeah.
so that's why I reached out to you. And it's a small circle that I started with when I was diagnosed with it.
And even to see everyone just come up and rally and support, and I mean I think that was huge. That was
Huge.
so great to see everyone come up and support. But it also is, and not just as your soul brother and your friend, but like it's just a direct reflection of you, and it's a direct reflection of what you put out into everybody and how you actually do put out that service to everybody. I think it came right back to you 100%.
Yeah, Danny, and that was, I think, another lesson in this experience was actually receiving that because it was overwhelming at first, and I at first was a little bit, to be quite honest, I was embarrassed. There's a little shame that comes around, like I'd done something wrong, that I'd gotten this diagnosis, that there was something in my life that I'd done wrong, and through that receiving of love you cannot help but feel those pangs soothed by the people around you saying, absolutely not, you're 100% loved, there's nothing that you did wrong. Even if they couldn't necessarily understand, they were there for me as a friend, they were there for me, stepped up as my community. And after I let those barriers down of shame, of guilt, and started to receive that love for me, that's when the healing started to happen.
Right. Man, well, I mean, I'm obviously I'm super glad you came out swinging, and it's so crazy to be here actually today, knowing that tomorrow you're going back to teaching.
Heck yeah. Yeah. 20 classes down in Southern San Diego. You guys got to come down, check out, take one of my classes. It would be an honor.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So if our listeners wanted to find you, so you're teaching at Core Powers in San Diego. Do you have a
Uh-huh.
website or a social media or any of that stuff that you put your
Y-
information on?
Yeah, all of it. I'm definitely on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on SoundCloud for those that are into music, and Spotify. For me, my website is Organic Nick, and then it's NIK, so it's organic, NIK.com.
Mm-hmm.
But to be completely honest with you, Danny, I'm still a little bit old school, and the best way to reach me is to come to take one of my classes and or meet me before or after a class. I'm much more a one-on-one person, so reach out with me on social media, and I'd love to message and connect that way, but definitely more in person. As far as my website, it's the holistic stuff that I do. It's yoga, but the best experience I feel is in the yoga studio. Unless you want to message me directly and speak about something else.
That's awesome. I'll make sure for everyone listening that I put all these links in the notes below, so you guys actually know where to click and how to find Nikki. Nikki, I'm so glad to one. I'm so glad you're here with us. I'm so glad that you are such a fighter and such a strong beam of light, and just super stoked to have you on the show today. Like beyond stoked to have you on the show today. We had to reschedule this one a couple times, and like what better day to do it than today? So I'm super pumped. Is there anything else you want to say to the listeners before we take off?
Yes, to know that you're not alone. Anything that you are going through, um, to share with the people that are around you, to receive it. You never have to go through anything alone, and that, even if it's shame, even if it's guilt, those things can be soothed through sharing your story. Also, celebrate your health. Celebrate thriving in life, that we don't necessarily need to just be connected through our struggles. That's one thing, but also, high five a friend that's doing really good in life. Be with each other when you're thriving, also when you're challenged. And then a few more things. I love this part at the end when you wrap it up. Ovarian cancer is one of the most unknown cancers. We don't really talk about it, but it's also deemed as the silent killer. It does not show up right now at a pap smear, does not show up in a pelvic examination, those of which I had before I was diagnosed. Nothing shows up. So you got to go back to the idea of trusting, or the yogic principle of trusting your intuition. If you feel that something is off, let go of your ego, step into a professional that can help you check things out, just to at least alleviate your mind. But please always trust that intuition.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Nikki. So glad to have you today.
Thank you, Danny. What an honor.
Until the next yogi session,
Yes.
This is Nikki and Danny saying peace out.
Peace out. Namaste, y'all.
Namaste.